Folks, we're just going to talk for a few more minutes about some of the other consequences of Kuhn's notion of scientific revolutions. Now, recall that we'd already discussed the idea that the dominant understanding of knowledge in general, but specifically scientific knowledge, is that there has been continuous progress from ancient times up to the present. Now, according to Kuhn, that assumption is wrong-headed. Here's partly why. He argues that within a particular paradigm, progress does in fact happen in the sense that we solve new puzzles, build more knowledge, and clarify the theoretical framework. However, once a paradigm has been rendered useless, that is, it's been discarded in favor of a new paradigm, all of that knowledge and progress within that paradigm becomes null. In a sense, we start fresh once we get into the new paradigm. We get a new frame of reference, thus we have to start from scratch. Progress occurs within that particular paradigm. Problem solving takes place, new technologies are developed, new facts are discovered, if we can talk about facts, and we refine the paradigm. Progress only occurs within a paradigm. Now, one other wrong-headed assumption that Kuhn addresses is that some people might get the impression, well, it's not that they were entirely wrong, it's that we have a different explanatory language for talking about the same things. Kuhn asserts that assumption is false because paradigms, he says, are incommensurable with one another. Now, what he means by incommensurable is something like this. The assumptions and the very concepts themselves from one paradigm to the next don't even line up with one another. In other words, they are so radically different from one another conceptually that it's not a matter of translating the old paradigm into modern, more practical and more technical language. The fact is, Kuhn argues, that a new paradigm is a completely new way of understanding that particular field of explanation. Thus, whenever we discard an old paradigm, along with it is discarded all of the concepts, all of the progress, and whatnot, and we're literally starting fresh, and progress will commence within the new paradigm. Now, one of the reasons he argues that we don't notice this phenomenon that he's talking about is because once a new paradigm takes hold, it becomes totalitarian in this sense. All the old frame of references are no longer taught. In other words, we don't train our doctors in the humoral theory. We don't train astronomers in the Ptolemaic cosmology. And we don't train chemists in 16th century chemistry either. All of the concepts from those old paradigms are null at this point, and we've started fresh. Progress commences in the new paradigm. All of the previous knowledge has hence been discarded, and we just don't notice it because we, in fact, are taught to look at reality through the new paradigm. We learn nothing about the old ones. Thus, we don't really recognize the fact that knowledge is not progressive. It's only progressive within a paradigm. There is discontinuity, as he says, between paradigms. Now, this is the real concern that some of Kuhn's critics have. Kuhn is accused of being a relativist, and let me read this. Kuhnian relativism, note that in his book, he even suggests that communities are not entirely like those in Orwell's 1984 because of getting locked into one way of seeing reality that may make other perspectives that may also be fruitful impossible to entertain. And this is because we are trained to see reality through that paradigm. Thus, we will tend not to look for other possible solutions. We won't entertain other theoretical frameworks. And I wanted to also note that what his critics call relativism isn't really relativism. What Kuhn is talking about is something that we call conventionalism. All this means is something like this, that we get particular conventional ways of speaking about things, explaining things, looking at problems, and as a result, we will tend to answer those problems through a conventional lens, thus making alternative hypotheses, alternative frameworks, alternative means of problem solving, something that very few people would consider. And I might add that within a conventional framework, what ends up happening is anyone who entertains alternative ways of trying to explain a phenomenon will probably be laughed at. They will probably be scoffed at, called a fool, something of this nature. And in many cases, these people who try alternative accounts will never bear any particular fruit. But occasionally, some of those who were considered cranks, like Copernicus, are the ones that, we would argue, turned out to be the ones who were right, but yet their theoretical framework was panned by practitioners of the dominant paradigm. Cheers.